in America, access to education seems like a given. And we're often praised for our free public education system that provides meals for every student and is accessible to everyone. And while simply having access to a free public education system that's structured in the way that America's is a great community resource for our children, the bigger concern is the quality of education that these students are receiving, with some groups of students having more access and more opportunities in their education than other groups of students. Now, let's first talk about funding. Where do our public school systems get the money to keep their districts afloat? A very small portion of that money comes from the federal government. And while there is a good chunk of money that comes from the state governments, majority of the funding that public schools get is from the local property taxes. And this means that for upper and middle class communities where the community and the economy is strong and stable, the businesses are booming, there's more money for the everyday people to spend on the local businesses, there's more people that own their own homes. All of this contributes to higher property values, which contributes to higher property taxes, which means that the local school systems in those neighborhoods have more funding. Low-income communities, on the other hand, have poorer economies, have less successful locally owned businesses, the local people have less money to spend on the local businesses. Fewer people own their own homes, and typically those neighborhoods have higher crime rates, which all contributes to those neighborhoods having lower property values, which means lower property taxes, which then means that the public school system in those districts have less funding. This means that upper and middle class communities and their public school systems, which are typically predominantly white, have more upgraded teaching tools, teaching materials, buildings, as well as better paid teachers, and overall just have more opportunities in the student's education. And the access to that better education and the better opportunities sets the student up for success in the rest of their lives, as compared to students living in low-income neighborhoods, which are typically predominantly Black and Hispanic, who often lack these same resources that higher classes have in abundance, or at least have enough to go around. In a 2016 study conducted by the US Department of Education, it was found that students of color located in low-income communities were less likely to receive a curriculum that reflected grade appropriate standards and cognitive demand, and that was meaningfully engaging and relevant. In these low-income neighborhoods, the school systems might not have any programs or courses that highlight academically advanced students, though the number of gifted and talented programs in those low-income neighborhoods have risen, with a study published by the Journal of Advanced Academics finding that 68% of high-poverty schools have these programs available. However, students in wealthier schools are still more than twice as likely to be enrolled in gifted education, with 12.7% of their students participating, compared to 5.8% of impoverished students. As of today, there are multiple policies and programs in place that are aimed at educational equity and that address the systemic issues in education that come with being in poverty, such as the Rural and Low-Income School, or the RLIS program. That program provides grants to state education agencies that then distributes subgrants to local education agencies that serve low-income students, as well as Policy Title I, Part A, which allocates funds to local educational agencies based on census poverty estimates and the cost of education in each state, in which the local educational agencies distribute these funds to the schools with the highest percentage of low-income students. And the School Funding Reform Act of 2008, or SFRA, which helps calculate funding for at-risk, ELL, and disabled students, as well as adjusts funding based on communities' property wealth and income. For the RLIS program, the grants distributed averaged around $67,000 per year for each district. For the 2021 to 2022 school year, the policy Title I Part A distributed a total of $17,960,667 to underprivileged school districts across America. And while there are numerous grassroots initiatives and policies that are geared towards this social issue, we see that educational disparities in this country are still very much alive and relevant. Using the conflict theory's ideologies, education systems are designed to benefit the privileged and maintain the existing social hierarchy, which all leads to unequal access to quality education for marginalized groups. With this being an ideology that I subscribe to me, this is just a cry for more social intervention and policy reform. If I were to propose potential solutions for this issue, the first idea I would put forward would be to establish mandatory early childhood education, or ECE, programs that every district will have to have available and treat as important as they would their regular K through 12 education. From birth to age 5, children's capacity to learn is unparalleled as their brains are rapidly developing. And these formative years lay the cognitive and behavioral foundation for the rest of their lives. If we're able to put them in an educational setting in this early developmental stage of their lives, the lessons they would learn regarding mental discipline, problem solving, self-resilience, and self-reliance, and overall education would benefit them for the rest of their lives, as this early childhood experience will help them transition into healthy functioning adults. The second idea I would put forward would be for every student to have access to an individual school-issued laptop or iPad. In this day and age, it is practically impossible to be able to be a school student and not have a device. A Pew Research study found that almost 20% of high school students in America don't have access to a reliable device at home, affecting 1/3 of all low-income students. And this all causes a greater concern for something referred to as the homework gap, which is a term used to describe when students are unable to complete their schoolwork at home due to a lack of internet access. This results in less educational attainments and overall just lower grades for the student. And not because they're lazy or they're incapable, but simply because they don't have the resources. For us to get policies like these, or any policy regarding this social problem passed, we need more community engagement on this topic at community meetings, board of education meetings, etc. In order to create change, we have to be our own advocates and push for the changes we seek in our society for the future of not only our children, but for the future of our society.